Brexit. All of the names and dates are in your head, but what you need is a story. Fun fact, I was still a political scientist in training when the Brexit referendum was announced. My professor considered it to be a great opportunity to study Europe at a time where Euroscepticism was highly in vogue. You see, 2008's Great Recession was not very far in the rearview mirror, and it was highly popular to laugh at the pigs. That's Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, and Ireland as well, even though you see how stupid laughing at the pigs was because Ireland is doing great now, and it's just a mean spirited thing to do. Anyway, people liked to laugh at these countries for the damage their governments did to the EU and laugh at the EU for supporting them instead of punishing them or whatever. And of course, here in the US, if someone helps someone else out financially, it is considered a major weakness on the part of both parties. And this attitude was common in the lofty academic halls of UW's political science department. That's the University of Wyoming. It sounds like a fairy tale these days, but I was drinking a glass of hot chocolate in a Swiss hostel with Joel, a nice Welsh employee, when the referendum was decided. We both stayed up all night to watch the results, and we were both shocked. Not just us, though, everyone was shocked. I sat there while this young Englishman had to rethink his entire future as his immigration status melted away with the deciding 1% of Brexit votes trickling in. You see, no one, including the slimy bastards that pushed it, saw Brexit passing as inevitable or even likely. In fact, Brexit was never intended to pass. Politicians like Boris Johnson pushed Brexit lies in a gamble to both accumulate political power and stay in the EU. And if they could, they would get their cake and eat it too. But as you can see, they only needed the first part to stay true. Even if Brexit happened, the Tories would still stay in power. It was a political win-win for them. What was worse for Brexit losers was the fact that the Tory gamble paid off. They stayed in power, and there was no competent opposition to get them out again. The fact that the Tories had absolutely no plan for Brexit would only hurt everyone but them. Yeah, you heard me right. There was no oven-ready Brexit or whatever BS slogan the politicians were pushing. You don't even have to believe me. Just look at the chaotic course that the HMS Brexit has been on since day one. Even to this day, almost a decade later, almost no Brexit policy of any kind has been decided, and very few replacement trade deals have been made. Which means there was never any plan. That course of action makes no sense if there was ever any plan at any stage. So, what did all of this cost? Well, the pound was at parity with the dollar for the first time since I've been alive. Any remaining British industry has been ground into dust. The global trade hub that was once London has since moved to France across the channel. And the English economy is set to be the first to slide into recession during a time of global economic hardship. But these economic forces change relatively quickly. At the time of your watching, some or all of this could be reversed and the world might have reached a utopia status. Who knows? So let me instead focus on the real cost, the often overlooked human cost. I want to talk about Joel again for a second, as he's presumably still out there trying to make his way in the world. The problem is that the politicians and the demographics who supported them were willing to sell out not just the economic well-being of the UK at the time, but the future of the UK. Now every member of the United Kingdom under 44 must balance their ability to cover rent and food with the desire to start a family. Many will obviously choose the rent and the food if they ever want enough to own a home someday, which means no kids, which means no future and no taxes. Hopefully, I'm painting a clear enough picture of the colossal failure in leadership that is Brexit. Obviously, this is not just the Tories, though the blame is mostly theirs, but also the failure of the opposition, as to this day, no leadership has stood up to help the English people out of this mess. But why would I even make this video for an American audience? Well, there's a deep reason and a shallow reason, and it'll be up to you to figure out which is easier to grasp. The deep reason is for anyone who pays attention to US UK politics. You'll recognize that these two countries are quantum entangled. If one country makes a certain move, the other moves in the exact same way at the exact same time. It's crazy, but it's true. A more down-to-earth reason applies to Texit and other similar BS separatist ideas. You see, as difficult as the EU is to fathom at times, it is basically a federated system, similar to the US. And while we consider it our God-given right to take for granted every little nice thing we have, economically, the US runs pretty smoothly. You can work where you want. You can buy property where you want. You can start a family where you want. And understand, please, that this is an anomaly in the world. It is a precious gift that took many smart people many years to fine-tune, and it will require many more before we get it right. It is constantly under assault by enemies of both the clever and imbecile varieties. They will corrode and deteriorate the United States for selfish or political gain, or by plain old self-harm and ignorance, like what we saw with Brexit. We must continue to propel the vibrant living parts of our nation to greater heights of vitality and support our friendly nations in their bid to do the same. So I salute you, European Union. When the Scots ask to come back, I highly encourage that you welcome them. And do the same for the English. Just make sure they sit at the back of the line. And for God's sake, tell them to shove it if they don't adopt the euro this time. This has been a Brexit Fireside Chat. I'm the little candidate, your host. Thanks for tuning in.